To order the Crystal Council meeting. Let's start with roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibo.
Present.
Councilmember Kamish.
Here.
Councilmember Kaiser.
Here.
Councilmember O. Nessarosen.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Here.
And Councilmember Cummings.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, council members, we have an agenda before us. Looking for a motion on that agenda. Anyone? Go ahead, David.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, looking for a second. Tracy?
Oh, I will second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, we have some company in the chambers here today. I think Police Chief Revering will help us to walk through that. Is that right? Okay, that's right. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Tonight, as you know, is one of our, we're going to present to you Officer Amara Murphy, who I'm going to have come up here. And as you know, we do this often with you when an officer gets out of the probation ranks. They're on probation for a little over a year. And as you know, Officer Murphy actually was a CSO with our community and city before she was promoted to police officer. And she, of course, went through a rigorous process. She went through 2 different interview panels, background investigations, a psychological screening, a medical screening, drug screening, all of that. Passed it all with flying colors, thankfully, and then was hired as a police officer where she went on to field training. Prior to Amara coming to us, however, she was working for the Minnesota State Patrol, correct? As an explorer. I say working because they do work volunteer hours, obviously, as an explorer. And the good news is, even though she had a State Patrol sergeant, I believe, at her swearing in, she chose us instead of the State Patrol to work at. So that should tell you how great your police department is, because this young lady chose us. And we're very grateful to her for doing that. It's something that we're very proud of. Somebody who, like myself, started here as a community service officer, it's very fun for me to see our young people grow through the ranks, and as Amara did as well. So it's very exciting. Amara has her family here today with her, and very excited, and they're going to watch her grow as a police officer, as they did in the beginning when they pinned the badge, or were here for the pinning of her badge. So again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for supporting our police department, supporting Officer Murphy, and we can't thank her enough for joining our ranks. So thank you. Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm going to excuse Amara, her family, and our officers, because as much as they would love to stay here for the council meeting, they would rather leave. I'll just be honest.
Chief, one
Hey,
thing.
you
Yeah,
guys,
absolutely.
You didn't tell us when she graduated from high school.
Yeah, I didn't do that for a reason. So let me just put it to you this way. I was 31 years old when Amara was born. So let's just leave it at that.
yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when you guys are done celebrating, you're welcome to come back. I'm sure we'll still be talking about light rail by the time you're done.
Thank you.
All right. That's awesome. All right, we have a consent agenda in front of us. I will read those into the record at this time. First item is approval of the minutes from the work session on September 12, 2024, work session on September 17, 2024, in the council meeting from that same date. Approval of the list of license applications submitted by the city clerk to the city council. That list is on file in her office. Acceptance of Mary Cameron's resignation from the Inclusion and Diversity Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2024. We have 3 approvals going into the Inclusion and Diversity Commission. Nicole Fernandez, Activia Treadway, Holly Knox, and then approval of an amendment that, to the joint powers agreement between the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. That's our consent agenda. Looking for a motion on that. Taji?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Forrest. Thank you, Taji. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Where'd this come from?
Human destruction.
Wow, sneaky. All right, we do have some people wishing to speak during open forum. Just a reminder that open forum is a place for you to speak to the council directly with the gift of TV. You get to talk to the general public as well. We get to actually hear and have a direct conversation. Well, it's not going to be really a conversation, but we get to hear from you directly, and that's really important. Oftentimes, we will put these on future agendas if we need further conversation about them, but we really do encourage people to come forward and speak about whatever's on their mind. Let's start with Jason Bradley. When you come up, please state your name and your address, and then have your point. It's about 3 minutes.
All right,
and
thank
we'll
you,
go
Mayor
from
Jim.
there.
I'll try.
All right.
My name is Jason Bradley. I'm from 5656 Brunswick Avenue North. About 16 years ago, I stood in the same spot. I learned that we were going to be having a project here in the city where we were going to be changing County Road 81, making it from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. And we were going to be ripping out houses, we were going to be ripping out buildings. And I found out about it, and I told everybody in my neighborhood, and we had a meeting in the bottom of the VFW, and it was full. And nobody wanted it. And then we were in this room, and it was standing room only. And guess what? Nobody wanted it. That's what the will of the people are here in Crystal, and has been for 16 years, because I've been working in this community for 16 years. I have a business in this city. That business is going to be dead, because those bells are going to go off every handful of minutes. And as someone who writes songs and does recording for a living, how am I going to get a good take? My business is done. We came back, and we were told, not by Mayor Adams, but by his predecessor, if you don't like what we're doing here, you can move out to the middle of nowhere. I'm hoping that that's not what the city thinks now. Because when we left that meeting, we overturned the entire council. And that happened. That was a real thing. All 7 people were overturned. 16 years ago, and we're going around the same old mountain. I'm tired of going around the mountain. You can't serve 2 masters. So is it going to be the people that elected you, or is it going to be the Met Council, the developers, and people who already have elected representatives in another city? We need representation here. We're stuck in the middle of this. We need a city council that fights for us here in Crystal. So I ask you to vote no on these changes, to vote no, because this isn't the will of this city. So we'll, I guess, see where you all line up, but that is what I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. All right. Dave Beeson?
Good evening. I'm Dave Beeson. I live at 6603 36th Avenue North. Here to talk about some concerns and comments with the budget. 16% just seems way out of whack when we look at our neighbors here. See Golden Valley doing 4.5, New Hope doing 6 3/4, Robbinsdale, Brooklyn Park. I mean, 16% is just way. We can do better than that. I mean, citizens are struggling to pay their bills. Such a large increase would only make that worse. On top of that, there's going to be an increase in utility bills. The council needs to take a hard look. I know you haven't approved it. This is the first draft. Before now in December, I say we take a hard look at reducing this budget. And there's some certain areas we have to maintain core services and essential services. But we can take a hard look at some of these expenditures. Adding $312,000 to the reserves, I believe that's a reserve. I think that's a surplus. Is that really necessary at this time to build up such a surplus? Public Works and Recreation are going up 25% thereabouts. I would think we should have some shavings there. And we just spent a bunch of money on the pool. There's probably some money left, but we can't have it all now. This is just too much of a burden for the citizens, and we can do better. So, ask for your consideration and support.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Steve Gardner?
You want me to speak now, or when you get to that in the agenda?
You're welcome to at this point. We've been.
Do it after is that okay?
I'd rather have you do it now, just so that we can have a council conversation when it comes. And you've been heard ahead of time. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I'm just repeating what he just said. 16% is way too much. 10 years ago, here's my statement here, I paid $680 in city tax, property tax, $680. After your 16%, I'm going to be paying about $1,600, so almost $1,000 more in 10 years. This is not an inflation thing. This is a spending thing. You spend too much. When Obama and Trump were in there, our inflation was at 1 or 2%, and at that time, you kept raising our property tax 10% year after year after year after year, 10% every time. We spent $13 million on that Public Works building, $16 million on the police station. We're spending $3 million, $2, $3, $5, whatever it is on the pool, which is open for 2 months out of the year, 2.5 months out of the year. Last year, I don't know how many $100,000 to pick up leaves on the street before the leaves fell. I was looking out my window going, what are those guys doing? All the street sweepers, all the trucks, there's no leaves. They hadn't fallen yet, and here they are sweeping the leaves up when they didn't even fall yet, and then you guys were back 2 weeks later after the leaves fell down. Was that $200,000 to do that? You got to hire 3 more employees. What's that, $500,000 for 3 more people working here? I got my water bill here. You've doubled almost everything on the water bill. The recycling, the water cost, everything's just about doubled on there. So when I lived here, moved in here 10 years ago, I had to pay $13,000 for the street in front of my house. I guess you've changed that now where we don't have to pay that $13,000. I also had to pay $6,000 for when your inspector came out, who I don't think you know what he's doing, had me do all these changes to my house. I had to add this, I had to change that, I had to do all these different things that make absolutely no sense. That was $6,000. So to figure out how much property tax I pay in this city, if you add all that stuff together, Crystal has the highest property taxes in the whole state. I have a friend that lives in Maplewood. He pays way less in city tax than I do in Crystal here, and he's in a $600,000 house. I have friends in California and Florida. They pay less than what we pay here in Crystal, because you guys have a spending problem, spending $40-something million on these things when we don't have that much money. We're just like blue-collar people or retired people. We don't have all these millions and millions of dollars to keep spending. Of course, you guys really aren't all that concerned, everybody in here, because you get raises every year. Raise after raise after, every time I come in here, it's another raise, more benefits, more benefits. So It really doesn't affect you, but it affects us when our property tax doubles and triples, and what, next year's gonna be quadruple, because you'll find something else to spend $10 million on. And the people of Crystal, the citizens, we're already 25% in the hole because of inflation. I wish there was 1,000 people here tonight speaking, because it affects everybody. But those people are smarter than I am because they know this. I've been coming here for 3 years. It doesn't do any good for me to come here and speak. Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever happens. You just keep spending, spending, spending. The other 15,000 people that could vote in the state, in the city here, they don't vote. They just reelect you guys over and over and over again. Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have this kind of money. You can only go to the well so many times. I'm a retired person. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to come in and just keep tripling my taxes. So please, let us have some of our own money so we can buy things like groceries and pay our insurance and stuff. So please spend less. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Mark Hoffman.
Good evening, everybody. Mark Hoffman, live at 3307 Zane Avenue North. As you know, I was here a few weeks ago. First of all, I want to kind of apologize. I was driving home that night. Something was said, and I want to assure everybody up here that I believe the whole council voted on everything that has happened here. So if you thought I was making aspersions about bad, decisions or private decisions, that was not there. I know what the city is like, and when you do something, you vote for it, and that's the way it ends up. So I had to get that off my chest. But I think the 16% is too high, and I think we're just starting something that's going to be a travesty for the city going forward. So I'm going to be a frequent flyer here for the next couple months probably, so get used to me. The real canary in the mine is still the reserve fund. It's a pretty big chunk of the budget right now. It's kind of hard to figure out what the numbers were based on the charts that were in the packages, but it looks like we're going to end the year up with about $5 million in the reserve fund, right in that area. And we're really looking at about 7 years to have that number up to $17 million or a little plus. So that's $12 million we're looking at. We're going to do 800,000 next year, $1 million the following year. And what does that leave? $10 million over the next 5 years. So you're going to have to increase taxes by 5% before you look at any other increases. That's what your little rate here to get online by 3031 is. It's a huge, and just, that's before raises, it's before equipment. So you're never going to see below a 10% increase, I don't think. Because I don't see anybody having a budget below 5%. And you're going to have to be at 3 or 4% to make this work. So, look at it very carefully. Don't look at the 2-year budget. Look, you got a projection out here that goes to 3031. And that's what you have to look at. It's a pretty big number, and that one is going to be going on forever. So, just there, there were some things I was looking at, and I don't know what there's a fleet expense there in the reserves. I don't know what the fleet expense is, but in the last 5 years, it's going to be a 200% increase. That's a pretty big number. Pretty big number. And like I said, I don't know what it is. One of these days, I'm going to come in and try to have a meeting with you or finance or both and just see it. My mind will be better. For those that don't know, I was on the city council, so I know how the budgets have worked in the past. And that's really it. I'm going to stay within my 3 minutes, but we'll be seeing you frequently. Maybe even a work session. I don't know. That's really pushing it.
You miss all the fun, don't you?
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
happy
miss
to
it.
meet.
Yeah, Adam would be happy to meet with you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. So I hope you guys hang out for the actual council discussion for the budget presentation tonight. So I think we'll probably respond to some of what you said in that forum. But I thank you, number one, for having the courage to come here. And I know there's some things that were said that aren't quite the way we understand them, Hopefully, we can clarify some of that. Hopefully, if we're wrong, we can get straightened out. But I know what it takes to come in and speak like your concerns, and I just want you to know I appreciate it. I don't want this to be a place that you can't approach. This is your space. This is your space to have these conversations. It's your space to communicate to us what your concerns are, and I do appreciate it, so thank you. All right.
Can you take one more, even though I didn't turn my name in?
Yeah, if you could please fill one of these out afterwards, but feel free to step forward. State your name and address.
Tim Polson, Ward 1, and I'm just going to read the email that I sent to my ward council person, Teresa, last night. I sent it last night, so you may not even have seen it yet. So anyways, this is what I wrote. I'm writing to urge you to vote no on Crystal's municipal consent for SLR 81. I realize a no vote only puts in place certain revisions Crystal needs to the existing plan. This is the minimum that needs to be done. In reality, I believe SLR 81 should be scrapped altogether. It will create traffic congestion with reduced lanes on County Road 81 and traffic hazards for automobile pedestrians and bicyclists. As other light rail lines in Metro have proved, it will bring increased crime. The transit police are only responsible up to the transit station. Any problems after that will be the responsible of Crystal City Police. The city will need to budget for more police officers due to the increased crime this will bring. We have had issues with park takeovers at Becker Park by individuals coming in on transit. SLR 81 will only give these outside individuals another source of transportation in the park. The Met Council in Hennepin County have proven themselves to be totally incompetent when it comes to light rail infrastructure. The Southwest line is years behind schedule and billions of dollars over budget. For this next line, Crystal will bear the brunt of these delays in construction and budget issues. In both Robbinsdale and Crystal, businesses will be displaced. A friend asked Hennepin County Commissioner Jeff Lundy about this. He was not concerned about this because he said other businesses will come in to replace them. What a cold-hearted reply and perspective. He does not have a clue what small business owners put into starting and running a business. Most invest their life savings and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making a successful business. He thinks, oh well, they can be replaced. The business corridor along County Road 81 is already developed for the most part, so thoughts of additional tax revenue are minimal. Bus rapid transit is a much better alternative. It is much more cost-effective, it is much more flexible for changing circumstances, where light rail is a permanent, non-flexible choice. And maybe most importantly, most residents and businesses do not want the light rail. Robbinsdale did a survey on SLR 81, and 77% of those surveyed were opposed to it. I suspect if Crystal did a survey, we would get similar results. We are a country of we the people, and we the people do not want SLR 81. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak during open forum? Nobody else. All right, we will close open forum, move on to our regular agenda, and we will be talking about both of those issues that were brought up during our council meeting. Let's see, we are. All right, next we have, we're going to receive some comment and consideration for approval or disapproval for a shut-off at a location. Is that you, John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I don't know if Brett Judge, the recent occupant of the property, is here tonight, but if he is, when I'm done speaking and you open the hearing, he may wish to address the council. So, Mr. Mayor, council members, this is a longstanding property with longstanding issues, and it is currently in a state of limbo as far as ownership. The city utility bill has not been paid since 2019, nor have the property taxes been paid since 2019. The house is uninhabitable due to pipes that burst in January 2024. and also uninhabitable because the house does not have a working furnace, which apparently happened in March of 2023, but we only learned about it when the pipes burst in January 2024. So there are, in staff's opinion, there are multiple reasons to shut the water off at the curb stop. In addition to the bill being unpaid, the house is not habitable because of burst pipes and no furnace. And there is no reason not to shut it off at the curb stop, because once those conditions are remedied and the past due water bill is paid, we'll turn the water back on the curb stop per standard, at the curb stop per standard city policy. In other words, since the house is uninhabitable, nothing is being lost or denied by turning off the water at the curb stop. So, with that in mind, staff does recommend and request that the council approve the turning off the water at the curb stop per standard city procedure.
All right, thank you, John. Are there any questions for John from the council? Go ahead, Therese.
I see that Mr. Judd requested a hearing. Has that happened yet?
This is the
Oh, this is the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And he was made aware of that, I'm certain.
Is Mr. Jed here? No? Okay. No? Okay. Do you have an additional question? Are you good?
I'm good.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Therese. I'm sorry, Tracy, I'm sorry.
So if the water gets shut off, how do you ensure that Mr. Judge doesn't live in the house? Like, how is that ensured?
He has said that he is staying somewhere else at a friend or somewhere else nearby, but he has said that I don't want to give too much detail in a public forum, but he does not appear to reside at the house, although he is still sort of in control of the property, even though the ownership is murky. But we do not believe he lives there.
Would he be allowed to go in to do repairs if that were something that he was able to do?
Yes, he has the keys. I don't know how else to put it.
Okay. But there's nobody that's making sure that he's not actually living there?
No, and we would not, I guess that would be more of a police question. And I don't want to speculate as to what the steps would need to be taken to physically remove someone from a building, but I don't think that's the stage we're at. And again, he has told us that he is living somewhere else, and we have not received an explanation as to why he requested the hearing, why he wants the water kept on at the curb stop, given the facts about the condition of the house. It just doesn't make sense, frankly, to staff as to why the water should stay on at the curb stop. So we don't know what those reasons are, but we do not believe the reasons are that he intends or is currently occupying the house.
And it's not condemned currently? Or, I mean, it's uninhabitable, but does that mean it's condemned?
No, condemnation would be a more specific, almost legal process, and the attorney can jump in if I'm misstating this, but condemnation is more of a specific legal thing, and that we're not at that stage yet. The house, as far as we know, could be repaired and could be occupied as soon as, again, the pipes are fixed and the furnace is repaired or replaced.
Yeah, go ahead, Forrest.
Just a quick question, like, the water is shut off in the house, right? Like, there's not like water rushing, okay.
We have been, that's a great question, and just to assure the council, staff has been checking every day to make sure there's no water consumption.
Okay, good, all right, that was.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
So why is it so important to him to keep the water on at the curb? I mean, if he's not living there and there's water shut off in the house itself.
Councilmember, we don't know, and he hasn't articulated his reasons to keep the water on at the curb stop. We don't know what those reasons are.
Go ahead.
Once the water's shut off, what's the time frame? Like, how long does he have to either rectify or pay taxes, pay bills? I mean, how long of a process is this before a next step?
Once we shut the water off? So the next step, once that happens, is he has to get the pipes fixed and get the furnace working, and then pay the past due balance. And it's not 5 years of water bills. It's only whatever the past due balance is, going back to the last certification to the property taxes. So the current balance, for example, is just over $600. So they need to get the water bill current and deal with the burst pipes and deal with the furnace. And once those are done, the house could be occupied. We turn it on at the curb stop. The real question is, how long does it take for that to happen? And that's, we've been waiting. We've been working with the property owner as detailed in the staff report and the attachments that were to it, to the staff report, since the pipes burst in January, and it just has been absolutely no progress or no evidence of progress on remedying those conditions.
All right, any more questions?
I guess I just have one question. If you're able to say, how close are we to tax forfeiture?
It would have happened in April of 2024, except for the Hennepin County and the state are still dealing with the aftermath of the Tyler v. Hennepin County's U.S. Supreme Court decision. And so it was basically delayed as they redo their policies and procedures and so forth. I would expect that the property will be forfeited to the state in April of 2025, but no earlier than that.
Okay.
And there are, even after that happens, there are repurchase options and second chances
Right.
for the former owner to kind of repurchase the property and so forth.
Thank you.
Therese.
In the materials we got, he was notified of lots of different resources as far as getting, has anyone tracked, has he followed up on any of those resources?
We have asked, and we don't really get a clear answer about any of that. And unfortunately, we can't do that for him. But both staff from the police department, who specialize in helping people, as well as my department, community development, have both tried to connect the, I won't say occupant, the person in control of the property, Mr. Judge, the person who's requested the hearing, to connect him with resources, but he does not appear to have made any progress and has not asked us to help him do that.
All right. That's it. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to get on the right page. To receive comment and council consideration of a motion to approve or disapprove water shutoff on 4533 Welcome Avenue North. So at this time, the public meeting is open. Is there anyone wishing to testify during this hearing? Anybody wishing to testify? Seeing no one approach, raise their hand. Otherwise, did we check online? Nobody online. So at this time, I will close the public hearing. I am looking for a motion from the council at this point. Go ahead, John.
I make a motion to approve the water shut-off at 4533 Welcome Avenue North at the curb stop.
All right, thank you. Forrest?
Second.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Abstain.
Motion carries. We don't need roll call on that, do we?
Who abstained? All right, thank you.
All right. Next is the first item on the regular agenda. It's the disbursements of $25,000 at greater. I'll read those into the record at this time. The print is smaller than normal. I'll get through it. Emdo Financial Solutions for the professional services for our finance department, $35,515. League of Minnesota for the fourth quarter property tax and casualty insurance, $67,356. At Council for Water Services for October is $143,220. Toastmasters, Inc. for the truck build-out, approved in September for $63,763. West Metro Fire Rescue for September contribution for West Metro Fire, $136,218. Vidamus Roadways, Inc. for Valley Place Courts, $348,250. Global Specialty Contractors for Pool Construction, $244,150. Kraus Anderson for Construction Management for Pool Renovations, $64,497. League of Minnesota for the fourth quarter workman comp insurance, $109,650. Northwest Asphalt for 2024 utility reconstruction, $829,476. Noose Truck and Equipment for 109, truck number 109 for replacement, $148,032. SEH, Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson for the 2024 utility reconstruction is $40,948. Waste Management for New Hope Brooklyn Center Crystal August Recycling, $78,447. Excel Energy for City Building and Streetlight Electricity, $29,788. MinPair for the employee required contribution for pay date 9/13/2024 is $71,577. IRS electronic payments for federal FICA withholding taxes for pay date 9/13/2024 is $71,760. Total disbursements of $25,000 or greater is $2,482,652.44. Is there any question on any of these items from the council? Question for any of these? John, go ahead.
So for the waste management, it's, we're paying the bill, but we're collecting it from the other two cities as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's a pass-through, yep,
Pass-through.
on those two. All right, any other questions? Looking for a motion. Therese,
Make a motion to approve expenditures over 25,000.
looking for a second. John,
Second that motion.
all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, this next item is in relationship to the 2025 budget and the levies. We have our Assistant Financial Director, Jody Bersheim, here to address the council. Welcome, Jody.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we are seeking public input for the 2025 proposed general fund budget and tax levies, as well as the EDA proposed budget and tax levy. Tonight is just an overview of what I presented back in September 3rd to council. The agenda here lists what I will recap in the presentation tonight. It's not too fancy. Just a quick reminder of the budget goals that sets the framework for the budget process. These include being able to meet service demands of the community, continuing with a biennial budget that provides the 2 years of budget for 2025 and 2026 with a primary focus on 2025, continued investment in future capital needs, providing competitive wages and benefits to attract and retain quality people to deliver the city's services to the community, and to monitor to continue to monitor the economic challenges. Here is a snapshot of the timeline for the Budget Council meetings. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity for public input, and we provide another opportunity for input at the December 3rd meeting where Council will consider the final budget and the property tax levy. These next few slides highlight the city's accomplishments over the last budget year. I won't go into detail, but as I advance through these slides, you can see quite a few things that were accomplished in each of the departments. From City Hall and Community Development to the Police Department, to the West Metro Fire, to Parks and Recreation, and Streets and Utility Maintenance. And I know I'm not spending too much time on each slide, but I encourage the public to take a moment to review the long list of accomplishments that were made possible over this last budget year. The public can access the presentation tonight on the city's website, and these accomplishments provide a testament to the hard work and efforts put into the budget process to not only identify the initiatives, but fund those initiatives to support continuous improvements throughout the city. So what are the significant upcoming budget impacts for 2025? This slide indicates what are the planned increases that have been discussed in prior meetings. Some of the initiatives that were planned were continued investment in the capital projects, additional investment to continue to support the long-term capital needs, building the reserves in the general fund, planned increases for the wages and benefits, increases in insurance costs, and there's also a wage shift for the city manager allocation between EDA and the general fund. And the total of all these increases are approximately $1.5 million. There are additional expenditures requested in this budget that could create operational impacts if not supported in this budget, and these include some additional staffing as outlined here. A classification and comp study is also included. Budget software that streamlines the budget process and allows for additional reporting functionality. Increases to street maintenance, and the total of all of these requests are just over $500,000. In a previous work session, council indicated that they would like additional funding to increase the efforts towards tree planting. An increase in intergovernmental aid allowed staff to put an additional $89,000 towards that initiative. And those funds will be held in the general fund contingency and earmarked for forestry. This will allow additional time for an evaluation and plan to be identified in the upcoming months. This slide is just a reminder of what was planned for the transfers to reserves. In 2025, the amount is $800,000, which is an increase of approximately $311,000 from 2024. This slide shows what the reserve levels will do if the city continues investing as identified in the plan. And as an important reminder, it's not uncommon for governments to utilize reserves in a given year for funding larger expenditures than what we would anticipate. But it's important to monitor the reserves and build them back up over time. You can see that the city is committed to building those reserves back up and plans to meet the OSA targeted levels by the 2028 and 2029 timeframe. As we have discussed previously, the internal service funds have been utilizing reserves over time due to levy sensitivity, and now the city is committed to building those reserves levels up to be able to fund projected capital needs in fleet, IT, and the building fund. And as you can see noted here, the general fund is providing support of approximately $442,000 in 2025 towards those funds. These funds and reserves will be discussed in more detail along with the long-term plan in an upcoming work session. This slide here provides a summary of the revenue and expenditures as compared to the previous year's budget. As you can see, the property taxes is the largest source of revenue for the general fund, and public safety is the largest area for expenditures. The overall increase for 2025 is 12% over 2024. The general fund is always presented with a balanced budget, and it should be noted that the property taxes and intergovernmental revenues are the primary source of funding for those expenditures. Keep in mind the additional investment in building up reserve levels in the internal service funds and the general fund accounts for a significant portion of those expenditure increases. This slide provides a visual breakdown of the expenditure budget, mostly by department. You can see that public safety is the largest expenditure area within the budget. This slide captures the levy impact of past years to give you kind of a reference point, and also supports all the requests discussed tonight for the 2025 budget. The preliminary levy would be a reflected proposed increase of $2.6 million, or slightly over the 16%. So what does this all mean for the taxpayer? The tax rate is increasing, estimated to increase to 58%. However, with the recent law change increasing the amount of the market value exclusion given to property owners, the actual tax impact could be reduced. This exclusion applies to the market value of a homesteaded home, and it decreases the taxable market value, which in turn decreases the amount of property taxes. So for the first $95,000 of property value, you receive 40% as a market value exclusion, which is a maximum of $38,000. And that exclusion amount is reduced as your property value increases, and it phases out completely at $517,200 home value. You can see at the bottom part of this slide, there is estimated annual increases for various home values to give you just an idea of the increases at certain values. For most homeowners with the property values listed here, will experience an increase between $100 and $200 range for the continued investment into those city services. Some may experience larger or smaller decreases, as these tax impact figures are still preliminary, and they will continue to change over the next few months as the county refines their values. So the city manager pulled together some additional information from neighboring communities to show how Crystal compares. You can see that Crystal is quite low compared to other communities on the amount of tax collected per household, and it's highlighted there on the slide. You can see that Crystal is quite low compared to the other communities on the amount of tax collected per household. And you can also see that the levy that supports all the services and amenities that Crystal offers is on the lower end of the levies listed here. It's important to note that Crystal does not have assessments or franchise fees that provide an additional source of revenue for the city like some of the other cities listed here. This slide captures the utility rate increases that were projected in the utility rate study and will be reflected in the enterprise fund budgets that will be discussed at a later time. These are increases to the rate that is charged for consumption for water and sewer, and an increase in the fixed fee rate for stormwater. As for the EDA, expenditures are proposed at $424,000, which is approximately $23,000 increase over last year, and is supported with a proposed levy increase of 6%. And to wrap up the presentation, just a reminder, there are state relief programs available for taxpayers, and that program information is available on the Minnesota Department of Revenue website. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mayor and Council.
Well, thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions from the council? Yeah, go ahead, Forrest.
This was a question that was brought up in open forum, and I just figured it's probably going to come up again. But could we expand a little bit more on the fleet increase, especially, looking at, it's doubling proposed, and then.
What page is that?
Oh, sorry, that's page 16, or slide 16.
Thank you.
And just what's happening in the fleet and why is it so much?
Some of it is reallocation from making sure that the correct departments were being billed for the cost. Part of it was because we had certain vehicles, I guess, for lack of a better term, that were not included in the long-term plan, that they were missed, as well as they were being underfunded. We just have not kept up with the funding need. And then add in the inflationary cost of vehicles are just getting more expensive. These vehicles broadly, as you know, the fleet fund, basically any equipment that moves would be considered under there. So because this is based on the long-term plan, which looks out 10 years, we're saving all these years to make sure we can fund that. So that it does look like a large increase, but it's been severely underfunded.
Do you have any more specifics?
I can get you that for the long-term plan discussion or before that.
Awesome, thank you. I think that'd be good because that'll probably be a big part of that discussion. Thank you.
And I just would like to add, over the past several years, the fund reserves have continued to decline because we've been using those reserves to support the purchases and the operating expenditures in there. So we're building those reserves back up too.
Similar story to unassigned balance, it sounds like. So.
Why don't we go to slide 15 or page 15? There was some discussion in open forum about, what the reserves were, and this chart is actually a little bit more telling than I think that it's more telling than I think people realize. So the blue line is the state required, is that correct? The state auditor's required reserve level, correct?
Yes.
Say that, I'm sorry.
I guess it's at
Correct.
the top. The triangle, it says state auditor, their benchmark is 35%.
Correct.
That's the line that tells us if we're above or below state requirements.
The blue line,
The
correct.
blue line. Now, go ahead.
I was and one other caveat with that, the state auditor's criteria is the current year's budget. The city's policy is the next year's budget. So it adds an additional challenge to meet that.
A timing difference.
Well, with an assumption that the budget may increase, the city's policy is 45% of next year's budget, which would include any potential increase. The state auditor's guideline for the 35% is the current operating year.
Right.
So it's just, it's a higher, it's other than, it's more than just a 10%. It's 10% plus whatever potential budget increase.
So to simplify, if you're increasing the budget next year, you have to have a planned increase for reserves as well, because that will increase.
And as we discovered, we weren't doing that in the past.
Correct. We weren't accounting for any time the budget would increase. Even if we didn't spend a dime of our fund balance, if anytime the budget would increase, our rate would drop.
Yep.
So,
This is really good because I think this is helping people understand how did we get here, or at least it's a piece of the pie. Now, the squared with a dotted line, that is our policy, and our policy is 45%
Of next year's
of
budget,
next year's.
expenditure budget.
So you can see that it rides above, above what we were hoping our policy we'd be able to meet. So I remember 4 years ago in 2020, actually I think it was more like 19, we were kind of ebb and flowing just below our own policy, and I was focusing on that with our city manager to say, hey, we got to make sure we maintain our policy. A couple years go by, we dip a little bit more, we go over budget. Can you talk a little bit about over budget and what effect the over budget year when it was the year we changed administrators, and it was the year that our assistant financial director, well, when you kind of stepped in, can you kind of recreate that for me?
I'm not sure I understand. Can you, explain that a little bit?
I can try, Mayor. In 2020, around, right, as you can see, in 2022, the city experienced approximately 400, there was a differential about $1.2 million. 400,000 of that was from loss of tax revenue because of appeals, and the city did not collect as much tax revenue as we had expected. It's not in our control. And then on top of that, there was about $700,000 worth of over budget due to insurance, vehicle repairs, overtime, and the police was another significant amount. And so that net, the 7 of the 4, 1.2 million, and that all came from our fund balance. And so that was a big hit. As you can see, it went down. So that really hurt the city's bottom line. And so now, one other thing regarding the fund balance, because we are trying to meet for our internal policy, the city's policy, meeting that next year's budget, we have to increase the budget just to have the fund balance to enable the transfer, those funds to transfer. The proposed is another $800,000 for next year. that increases the budget. So we're trying to play catch-up, and it, as you can see, it does take some time and increase the budget. Once we get back to that, we'll have, the policies and the practices in place where that won't, we'll be able to adjust that and it'll level out.
Thank you.
Is that,
I think that really helps the public here who had some concerns about what that was, what the reserve was, how we got here, what we're trying to accomplish.
one other thing, with the pandemic, there was some one-time money that the city also had that obviously one time, we no longer had that, but those costs were then assumed and kind of baked into the expenses.
So is that safe to say that kind of hid what was kind of underlying because we didn't have a policy of keeping up?
Correct, that kind of postponed it wasn't necessarily intentional, it was just a side effect or, unintentional consequence of having the one-time money not accounted for in future years.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's what you see in 2020, that kind of increase all of a sudden, and then the one-time money goes away, we go over budget, and then now we're here.
Yep. So, just for clarity, 2028 is when we get to the point where we're at state auditor's requirement. Now, the state auditor hasn't done anything to us because we have this plan to recreate the reserves. It's not something we have discretion over, it's something we must do. And I think it's important to understand that. There are other parts of the budget that we can talk about that becomes a little bit more discretionary. I think we have a little bit more to say in terms of do we want to do it. A lot of it came under the category of operational use. What do we need to keep operational? And that particular area, I think, is where the council is going to have more of its discussion as to what we're doing. What are we actually going to do? Are we going to actually come down from the maximum which we approved in September, or if we're going to come down? So I think that's kind of where our discussion might be going at this point. Any other points that the council wants to make to help clarify to the public? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to piggyback or kind of continue what you were saying on page 12. We're looking at our budgetary impacts. So the 16% is too high for me. So I'm looking at much of this on here, and there's only a couple things that I'm really interested in. Like the program specialist is interesting to me because of the ability to help out some of our committees that we have, and then also to help with grant writing. That will be really, really beneficial. And then I just have other questions about like the street maintenance, and we can talk through some of the other positions are there, but that list there's a lot of, for me, I think there's some, we can have a further conversation about things on there to help lower that 16% initial levy.
Yeah, go ahead, Taji.
Just a comment I would like to make, and this has been helpful for me as I've been understanding this budget, but slide 21 is very telling, just as we compare it to our neighboring communities. And I would encourage our residents to, a tool I've been using is the property calculator provided by the League of Minnesota Cities, where you can look at different communities, type in your home value and home values of other communities, and see what they actually paid in property tax in prior years. And you will see that Crystal historically has paid less than our neighboring communities, as you see in, that's represented in 2024 as well. The only community that that has a lower property tax, I'm looking at per household than us, is Robbinsdale. But then as we look at Robbinsdale, they have franchise fees, which gain them over $1 million in revenue. And so if they did not have franchise fees, they would have to figure out how to find another $1 million to fund their government, which would hit their levy. And so that would, in my mind, increase their property tax levy to a rate that would be higher than ours. And so, yes, the percent is alarming, and I would actually hope that we would get a view, maybe in the next month or so, of what does 2025 projected kind of numbers like this look like as we learn more information about our neighboring communities. But again, the percentage is alarming, but when you look at the dollars, I think it tells a little bit different of a story. And so I encourage residents to really anchor to the dollars that we're paying and understand that everything, not everything, almost everything, or almost all the revenue we get is from our property tax versus these other communities have franchise fees and some other areas where they get revenue. So with that said, I do look forward to talking more about how we can lower that 16%, even if modestly. But I think the numbers and the actual dollars tell a little bit different of a story than the percentage.
So hold on, I'll go next. Just a little background. We intentionally got rid of assessments. I mean, you compare to Robbinsdale, you can be assessed twice in one house. We have 0 assessments for any street reconstruction or maintenance. We deliberately moved everything so that it remained on the tax roll so that you knew when we were doing something. We can take New Hope, for example. They have franchise fees as well. They literally had a doubling of that a couple years ago, and nobody knew. I want you to know when we're raising taxes and why we're raising taxes. That's why it's on our property tax. So there are a number of things. It's the franchise fees, it's the assessments, it's the sales tax for some of these communities. In Minneapolis, my gosh, they have a completely separate assessment for their financial debt. So that doesn't even reflect. I don't believe it reflects in that calculation. Maybe it doesn't.
No, it's about 55 million on top of their 465 million.
Yeah. So when we look at the tax rate, we were, for Minneapolis, what was it? We were just a little bit lower.
The tax, I don't have the tax rate, I have
The
the
dollar amount.
we were approximately $300 less of city tax, and that does not include the debt service that Minneapolis has.
Yeah. So when we have these discussions, it's important to understand what are we doing in Crystal that's different from other communities. That's what we're doing. We're trying to show you everything. We're trying to put everything on the table for you so you don't have to go and research what are they doing for franchise fees? What are they doing? Most people don't even know what franchise fees are. It's what you pay for on some of your utility bills. Comcast, I think, electric, it comes through the electric as well, and gas as well. And those to me are a hidden tax. And I fought against that, pretty much my whole time here because I wanted it to be as transparent as possible. The transparency that's happened, and I wish, to some of your points, I wish that this room was full because we are your representatives. We have to have this discussion eyes wide open. It's got to be transparent. When I came here, our work sessions, which you guys experienced before this council meeting, never used to be recorded. They're now recorded so that the public, if they're interested, can find out what are we talking about. No backroom deals, no secret anything. I know those are very draconian words for people trying to do business, but that's why the transparency is important. That's why it's important in this case. That's why it's important for our public meetings as well. So that's the framework kind of that Taji was working off of.
Well, thank you. I was just going to touch on what franchise fees are exactly. So I think of it this way. So they're like bills that come from certain utilities. So if, let's say I had cable and internet with Comcast in Crystal, and I was like paying, I'm just doing some numbers. Let's say it's $150 a month for that. And let's say I moved to New Hope, then my bill might be, $160. And if I would look at the bill, there'd be a franchise fee on my bill, and because that bill's going to the city because of how franchise fees work. So that's just like an example of that, which franchise fees seems like a confusing thing. And we talk about the clarity of where your tax bill is coming from. It's all with our levy. It's not on your cable bill or another bill. So if that helps people what a franchise fee is, I think that's really important because to me, it can be confusing. I always have to clarify when we go through the budget of what a franchise fee is because it could be several different bills that you have to kind of pull in to see where you're getting charged from the city on those separate bills.
Yeah, Forrest.
Thank you very much for both of you explaining franchise fees. That was the other thing I was going to say. It's not about McDonald's franchise. We're not charging them or anything. But the other thing I wanted to mention, just for the benefit of people listening and the audiences, last year around this time when we were having a budget discussion, I think it was really clear how much we all care. Like every one of us really cares about the budget. We realize this is like the most important thing. Obviously, Blue Line and all of that is very important, but the budget itself is like the most important thing that this council does in my mind, and I believe in a lot of people's mind up here. And we don't take it lightly. And I think if you're looking at this slide right here that's pulled up, one thing that came up last year and is in my mind, and I think the mind of many of the people up here, is that 71% number, right? That homestead residential number. That's telling you that 71% of the property here in Crystal is people living here, right? This is their home. It's not their house, it's their home. And we take that very seriously. And unfortunately, we aren't Golden Valley, right? We don't have 38% of General Mills and Tenant and these other large commercial areas. So we realize that every dollar that goes into the levy is something that ends up in your pocketbook, and we don't take it lightly. And we grill all the staff here. I can tell you that for sure, as John Snyder said. Like every dollar, we make sure it's needed. And I really am encouraged to see people here, and I hope, like as the mayor said, more people do come. But we don't take it lightly. We want transparency. We want you involved, and we do really care. And unfortunately, we are in a situation now where we have a 16% proposed levy increase. And that levy increase, I'm hoping we can get it down a little bit, like Taji said, but it is going to be high, and it's going to be a higher percentage increase than our neighbors because, this unassigned fund balance is a big part of it. These other reserve balances that have been pulled on, the last few years, you haven't had really big double-digit levy increases, and now we're kind of feeling that now. It's a hard decision to have this much of an increase, but every one of us up here we don't take it lightly. I think I can say that.
One of my first comments last time we talked about it during a council meeting was the 16% makes me want to vomit. It just upsets my stomach. And I came in to try to figure out how to slash and burn stuff in the levy, and that was in September. And I voted yes for the 16% because in real time, I started really understanding some of the things that we were doing inside this budget were things that we've been trying to accomplish for 9 years. I came to this city almost 12 years ago now, and our capital accounts were not funded, which required us to do debt for just about any type of capital improvement. We made a decision roughly 10 years ago, might have been 9 years ago, to no longer use debt. We're not using debt anymore. We don't have financial charges. We don't have a levy for bonding. We don't have anything like that. We are now paying cash for anything that we do. Now, when you do something like that, you have to fund your capital, or you're going to get forced to go into debt again and do some bonding. So I've been harping year after year after year, stop the growth. Yeah, there's a saying that kept coming up in the council meetings, and finally I just said, please don't ever say that again. We're keeping services the same as we grow our budget. It's not true. We're adding people. We're not keeping things the same. We're growing. So we've taken that out of our lexicon so that we're honest with ourselves and with the public. We are growing the budget and have been growing the budget. What we needed to do was to fund these capital accounts so we aren't forced to use debt in the future. So when I looked at this budget and I saw what was happening with the capital accounts being funded, it's like, okay, I asked for this. I asked for this for 9 years, and finally it's here. We had some funding of the parks. We started that quite a few years ago, but the other capital accounts were still lacking. So in my mind, we were doomed to go back to using debt. This budget, when I realized that, hey, we have to pick up our reserves. In what we are doing with the reserves, we are putting them towards our capital accounts so that we are preserving the function of the financial direction that this city has put forward. And so so those capital accounts they now have a funding mechanism that should last into perpetuity unless we mess with it. So this is the worst budget and the best budget that I've seen. I would have loved to seen it happen a little at a time for the last 9 years. That's not the way the council voted. I am, in a year and a half, we're accomplishing what we should have spread out over 9 years. And I just can't believe how staff has pulled this off. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work. We had a lot of, oh my gosh, moments in the last year and a half. And our financial director is responsive, our city manager is responsive to what we've put into place. And it's just amazing to see that. I'm sorry for the 16%. I honestly want to throw up. But this sets the course moving forward for what we're trying to accomplish as a council, as staff in this city. And I understand your frustration. Trust me, I understand it. But that's my take on kind of what this budget is. I hope that helps. Any other comments, questions on this from the council? All right. I'm going to do something just a little bit, I think, out of character. Does anybody from the audience want to readdress us? Any comments or questions that we haven't answered? I want to make sure they've been answered. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. All right, what do we got here? We don't have action here. This, by the way, transparency. This public meeting never existed when I got here. What we had is September, we approved the preliminary budget, which is the max we can go. We can always go down from that number, but we can't go above. And then the next time we really had the public meeting was when we were going to approve the budget, and that's in December, is that right? That's when we approve it, but that doesn't leave staff any time to adjust and make adjustments from public input. So we added this particular meeting so that we could hear from you and have time to respond. And I hope that's what happens. I hope that's what the council will direct. And I want you to know we're trying to make this as approachable as we can for you and help you understand what's going on. So again, thank you. Does anybody from the council want to talk specifically about any type of movement, or we talk about that later?
We do have it on the work session
After
agenda,
this?
yeah, to get
Okay.
more specific.
All right, so we will work through some of the suggestions during our work session. Again, public meeting, you're welcome to stay, listen to it online later if you'd like, whatever you want to do there. So with that, I think we're going to move on. Jody, thank you for your work. You always run out before I get a chance to thank you, so thank you so much. All right, our Recreation Director, John Elholm, is here to address the council in building improvements at the Crystal Cove Aquatic Center. This is at the Crystal Community Center. John?
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As you said, I'm here tonight to talk about our Crystal Cove lobby improvements and also improvements in the service desk at the community center.
Drag page down. Okay, I got it.
All right, just a little recap of where we've been. Both of these, the project of the lobby, and then there's some siding work as well, were actually included back in 2005 when we did the remodel of the pool back then. We did the zero-depth pool back then, did some improvements in the building, added some family restrooms, and two of the alternates from that package were improving the lobby, and improving the siding on the building. A third one on that was to do the deep end of the pool. So all three of those we're working on this year. July of a year ago, US Aquatics was hired to develop pool plans, and HCM Architects was hired to develop building plans. In October, the planning update was provided to the Park and Recreation Commission, and a planning update was also provided to the City Council. Then in December, construction plans were 75%. Aquatic Center was closed for construction during the 2024 season. January 2024, Kraus Anderson was hired to assist with construction of the pool, building lobby, and community center desk. Bids were sought for pool items, and quotes were solicited for the building items, since that's a smaller project. The scope of work for the pool building is really the lobby, and then making some improvements to the hallway that goes by the men's locker room. And I'll get into that in a little bit. It does not expand the roof line at all. Everything is done underneath the existing roof. The main improvement here is on the left, you can see the current condition. This is the kind of desk that was very common when this was built back in the 60s. And when I started in this profession 35 years ago, you'd see these at state parks and things where people can just, the public can basically just walk around the counter and get at, where the staff are. That really started changing 25 years ago, where it was, staff was put behind a door that locks, and just to provide some separation for, between the public and staff, add some security to our staff that work back there. They are collecting money of people going into the pool, so just having that more secure is an important part of this. And then also this would push that service counter out into the lobby area further. As you can see right now, if you're working at that front desk and someone runs in and goes into the pool, they can't see if they're going to the locker room or if they're going down the hallway into the pool, or where they might be going. So what this plan proposes is to push that counter out so that staff have better visibility down the hallway. It also provides windows in the front. Probably the last 20, 30 years, public buildings have glass in the front, and that's for safety. So if there's somebody inside kind of, that you can see who's in there and what's going on. It has happened, not real common, but it has happened where there's police cars out front and there's something going on and our staff doesn't know because they can't see outside the building. So this does add some windows in the front lobby of the building. It also adds a wall between the locker room and the hallway on the men's side. There's currently a wall on the women's side, so if a dad comes with their daughter, they can wait in the hallway, and then the daughter comes out, they can go into the pool. Currently on the men's side, if a mom comes with their son, they have to wait in the lobby because once you get around that corner, you're actually in the locker room. So this would kind of provide some separation, a little bit more, make people feel more comfortable that are using the pool building. The mom can kind of wait in the hallway and see when their son comes out of the locker room. Like I mentioned, it is utilizing existing space, so that large overhang that's there now would be just where the lobby goes. And it does have some skylights to add some natural light in there, but it does have the glass doors and glass entryway, just like most public buildings do nowadays. And then just another view of the front, bringing that out with the skylights and then the glass, so that adds some daylight into the lobby as well as making it a little bit more inviting. The current condition on the left really, it makes you feel like you're coming to a facility and you're going in an emergency exit like from a gym, it's those steel doors, and it's not a very inviting experience. And then we also have the issue of the siding is in really bad shape. This is painted now, I guess, 7 years ago. We painted, and after a year or two, the paint just doesn't stick. So putting a metal siding over top of that to cover that and clean up the look of the building is proposed here as well. And then at the community center, the current counter is not handicapped accessible. There is no low counter there. So it does pop that out into the hallway just a little bit and then provides service counters for people that need the lower counter. This is the same slide we've been showing the last few meetings. The budget on the right is where we're at today. We were here a year ago and presented the budget on the left. The only changes have really been the grants we received and then combining the community center counter project with this. Just, you're hiring someone to do a counter, it's just more efficient to have them do two. So $6.7 billion. Oh, back one. So here's where we're at with this. The good news, bad news thing is, one reason this is a little later than we had wanted, we've been getting, or Kraus Anderson, I should say, has been getting quotes all summer. There's 2 or 3 items that kept coming in high, so they kept getting more quotes. And the number really isn't going down much. So these numbers are a little bit higher than what we had been talking about earlier. However, the bottom line, at the same time, we're going to try to figure out how to make this work. We looked at our contingencies and some of the other things at this point in the project, and we lowered those because we are, a good way into the project. So the $6.2 million at the bottom is actually $100,000 less than what I showed you at the last meeting. So we are about $500,000 under budget with what is showing in there today. And what that is the construction contracts for tonight, the $475,000. There's one item that we still don't have a bid on. It should be less than $25,000. And then the alternate for the metal siding. What happened there apparently is that we've got contractors out there to look at it, and that wooden siding is in really bad shape, and they need to attach things to it, and they're concerned about how that's all going to work. But they have suggested a different product that would be a lower cost product. So we were recommending not moving forward with that part and coming back later with a different siding option. It would still be metal, but it would have a different way of fastening it to the building. So the quotes we did get, there's a list of them there for everything from carpentry to concrete, exterior glass, drywall, painting, mechanical, electrical. The total of all that is $475,445. And then, like I mentioned, a quote was not received for the structural steel item. We will continue to get quotes for that. And then quotes received for alternate number 1, the metal siding, were higher than anticipated by quite a bit. So Kraus Anderson is continuing to work with our architect on a different product, and we hope to come back with a different product at a future meeting. So the recommendation tonight is to enter into agreements with the following contractors for improvements at the Crystal Cove Aquatic Center, and that the mayor and city manager enter into those agreements.
All right, thank you. Questions from the council?
I have a question. So the siding, you have, in this total amount for the aquatic center, you don't have a ballpark figure for siding yet, correct?
Yeah, we have a placeholder of $175,000.
175?
And that is included in that total.
Or, okay, right there.
One more.
All right,
So
What's the
the
requote?
anticipated will be less than that.
okay. It's a requote. And then you're also including an update for the service counter for the actual community center as well.
Correct, that's all part of the same
Part of the
project.
same, yeah. And then I noticed that you had you have 2 alternates here. You're basically, are these, add-ins that we are to consider, or are they part of this project?
We're recommending them at this point. Alternate 1 was the siding, and that one we're not.
Yeah.
Alternate 2 is the mechanical that would provide some cooling. One of the issues we have there in the summer, and actually on our accident reports, is people have heat injuries. So providing at least a little bit of cooling, not air conditioning the building, but just having some cooling in there.
So there isn't any air conditioning now? whatsoever.
Correct.
Right, so,
And then the other two are painting. And actually, those two painting ones, we have in our 25 long-term plan, we have some money to do like the lifeguard area painting. It was more economical to attach that to this and then just get that done as part of this project.
well, I drop my organics off at the, community center every week, and so I check in on the pool or whatever, and I have to walk by the building, and the building is in tough shape. I know we have photos here or whatever, but when you walk around the side to look at the pool, it's years beyond, repair is the way I look at it, I guess. So, it's good to see that you show us a budget, which is, underneath what we have budgeted for the pool, given the fact that we've gotten, state and federal money to pay for the pool itself. So I think that this, I would be in favor of making these improvements, since this is a long-term asset to the city, so that's my opinion, so.
Forrest?
I just want to be absolutely crystal clear that, that the community center's counter, that part of this project was in the 2024 long-term plan?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that was,
Right, 20, I think, yeah. It's been actually the last few years, I think yes. It is in 24.
25.
25?
I think it's in
It's like,
20, I think it's in 20,
in the memo here, it says 24. I just wanted,
24.
I don't remember seeing that, but I could have, there's a long list.
Yeah,
It was noted when the architects were, it was part of that meeting
Okay.
conversation as well. It wasn't highlighted because it's a smaller project, but it would have been in the 24.
Okay, and then I do have another
Yeah, go
question. Is signage included in this, or is that gonna be another item?
it's either included, sign is a pretty small item, so it's either included in here or it would be a contingency type thing.
Okay.
All right, I'm kind of in the same place. We've been way over my threshold of cost on this project for a very long time. We started with a pool repair, then we turned into a pool replacement, and then pool replacement of all of the accessories. As long as we're doing that, let's bring some of the things that were out further into this project because it makes sense. And, oh, by the way, we're getting some money from the state, so we get another bump in the cost. I'm voting no for this building. It is something we can do in the future. It's part of our plan, does not need to be in the same, in my opinion, in the same project. These projects are independent. It's not going to affect the pool in terms of its function. And honestly, to spend that kind of money for something you just walk through to get to the locker room to get to the pool, that type of money, I can't do it. So I'm going to be voting no on this. Yeah, go ahead, Forrest.
Just a quick question. How much has been spent on the architecture and the planning up until, the design and planning for up to this point? Pro-
100,000
Okay.
neighborhood.
Yeah. This whole thing has been incremental. I mean, that was it. We approved the design of it before we approved the actual building of it. I mean, it's backwards. It's completely backwards. We should approve building the thing before we approve the design of it. This project drives me crazy. Just drives me crazy. I've never seen job creep like this in my life. I mean, I understand when you're working on a project in your home, you have a little bit of job creep, and you do bring some things forward, and it's a little bit different. This started as, oh, there's no problem, John, you had that conversation. How's the pool? To John Elholm. Oh, there's no problem there, everything's okay. Next thing you know, we got a leak in the pool. Incremental, 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 incremental. Could somebody please come up with a plan up front rather than the incremental increase? The job creep. This has been handled extremely poorly from the get-go. I can't approve another dollar. Go ahead.
Well, you're getting a free pool out of this.
A free pool.
Yeah.
You're out of your mind.
How do you, I mean, you received 3 million from the Fed, over 2 million from the state for this pool, right? And now.
that right?
Yeah,
3 million from the Fed.
yeah, right,
Where?
COVID,
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
yeah. And,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
and so then
So we
on top
get
of
money, okay, here's the main difference.
Can I finish?
Yeah, I suppose you
Yeah,
should.
and so, I mean, now you're starting to nitpick everything through this thing. This project has been, first of all, when we first started this process, you wanted to totally fill in the pool and totally get rid of that asset to the city. You know, just, you wanted to get rid of the pool, and so staff looked for and found a way in which to not only take care of the problem with the pool, which was leaking 20,000 gallons of water every day, right?
That's the
Yeah.
problem that you said, and you both said, no, everything's fine. And later I found out that it wasn't.
No, that's not true.
That is
That's
absolutely
not true.
100%.
Not true. Anyways, and now we're in a situation where, you know, we have this process, we have a budget, we've gone through this budget many, many, many times. We have this, the pool is being built, and now we're getting to the point where we can start looking, we have our costs under control, and we can look at, you know, the other aspects of this project that need to be resolved, which is the building, right? And all of a sudden, now you're like, put the brakes on it, right? You know,
Now?
now, yeah,
Really?
right, yeah, now, yeah. You know, you know, great, vote no.
I will.
Go ahead. But I think at this point, you know, we're gonna have a pool that's gonna be an asset to the city, it's gonna last us for 60 years. And I think, you know, leaving the building as is not the way this project should be finished. And I think it's time to move forward on it.
It's a no, not now. It's a no, not now. It's part of our plan. You know, we have people in this room who talk about spending. Now, did I ever say I wanted to fill in the pool?
Yes.
I never said that.
Yes.
When it blew up to an entire pool replacement, I said, okay, now we're up to $3.5 million. Let's have the conversation. Do we actually want to have the
When
investment?
this pool was leaking, you wanted to fill it in. That was your plan.
That is,
Yeah, that was your plan to
That
deal with the
is
problem.
not.
Yeah.
we wanted to have a conversation about what we're going to spend $3 million on. And we decided, it went through everything, and everybody says, yes, we want the pool. However that went,
And on top of that,
no,
you went back and had them survey the city again and again to try to get the answer that you wanted in terms of getting rid of the pool.
that's really interesting. I thought it was the other way around. I thought the questions were asked that we have the money in our budget for this pool. Do you want us to build it? That is not true. We had the money in our capital account. It wasn't designed for an improvement at that time. So you
You had a
it
problem,
backwards.
you didn't want to deal with it, right?
Oh, wow.
City staff found a way to be able to repair this asset, and they came forward and put it in front of you, and you still are adamant about, well, we shouldn't be doing this. Well, the horse is out of the barn now, and we're going through our budget here, and we have a budget that's where we're under budget, and we have asked, we're able to resolve issues that are with the existing building. It's time to go ahead and move forward.
And we started with a repair, about $3 million. It quickly went to $3.5 million. And now we're under budget at 6.2. I like the way you
Yeah.
think.
And we also have had funding from the state to help us resolve any additional issues with our
So
pool.
interestingly enough.
Thank you very much.
Interestingly enough, I look at whether it's state funding, Hennepin County funding, local funding, I look at that as taxpayer money. I take the perspective of the citizen. I take the perspective that all that money has to come from our citizens. And you think it's free money and it has no cost.
I
to
did
our
not say it
citizens.
was free. I did
Oh,
say it
it's
was,
paid for.
Yeah.
Come up with COVID, $3 million in COVID paying for our pool. That's the first I've ever heard it. I haven't heard it from staff. This is a ridiculous conversation. Taji?
It's great to see that this project is under budget. I do appreciate that. And I got a tour of the pool building this past summer, and it is in, I would actually even say embarrassing shape. You know, and this council decided to invest in this pool. And so if we're going to do it, I want to do it right. The plans you put forth, I think, are reasonable. And so this is a very expensive project. I've voiced that many a time. But I do think this is the cost of doing things right. I appreciate your diligence on the project thus far. And so I am in support of the plans in front of us.
Therese?
Just for argument's sake, we've spent about $100,000 getting it designed, right? Is there a huge advantage to doing this at the same time, redoing the building as the pool, or?
Yeah, right now we have Kraus Anderson managing all the projects on the campus at the same time. If we pulled this separate, we'd likely have staff doing that, and we're not as equipped to do this kind of work. Or we'd hire Kraus Anderson again to come back in.
Maybe my question is poorly worded. Is there any harm in holding this part of the project to a point in the future? We could still use the same architectural work that's been done so far, correct?
Right, but we would need to solicit new quotes, and we have Kraus Anderson is doing that for us right now. So, I mean, there's an expense for them to be doing that as well. They're spending a lot of time, some of these quotes, they're sending out to 8, 9 companies trying to get the best numbers for us.
And redoing this building, do you have a ballpark as to how much this part is costing? Is it that the figures listed on the spreadsheet in front of us, is that pretty inclusive, or are there other costs besides?
This is the construction cost here. There's, and do I have the design documents? That includes, is that pool end? Yeah, pool and building is $351. I think about 100 of that is a little less, I think, is for the building. But then Kraus Anderson, part of their agreement is to get this all done. So they have a trailer out there in front of the building, so they can do the pool and the entry all at the same time, which is efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Dave?
Just wanted, I agree with a lot with what Taji said. For me, it doesn't make sense to not do the pool building when it's in really rough shape, and having a nice pool, but having people come through, if we were to not go through with this and people would come through the old building to go into the new pool, that just wouldn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it might deter people from going to the new facility, and it's a community asset, and I just think we go forward with it, and I think it just will be a really great community asset for decades to come.
Forrest?
Yeah, I would just echo what David and Taji said, and just say one thing that, unfortunately, the state of the building is kind of a little bit tied to what we were talking about earlier, with a lot of deferred things from years gone by coming to roost now, and some of these items are probably deferred maintenance items that should have been addressed in earlier budgets, and unfortunately, we have to deal with it now. So.
We can look at woodpecker holes and peeling paint, and we can buy some time. I don't think we need to buy that much time. I just don't think it's, something that we have to do at the moment. And I see very clearly that where this vote is going, but there's just some things in this whole process that I've been watching, and I would really, it's kind of like when we were talking about the park improvements at Basket Creek. We're getting piecemeal, a little bit at a time. Give us the comprehensive vision, give us the comprehensive cost midway through this project. Well, we're not approving the budget right now, but we're just approving Kraus to do the design. So you can still vote it down now. It's like, okay, great. That's that incrementalism. We get to this point. We're so close to the finish line. I understand why you're voting for the building. I get it. In the broad scheme of things, $500,000 is nothing when you look at 6.2 or 6 point, what's the number? 6.2 or 6.7?
6.2.
6.2 is the anticipated expenses, 6.7 is what's in the budget.
Yeah. You know, so on a percentage basis, it's not a big deal, but to the point of controlling spending and making sure that we're putting the money in a place that gives us the most bang for the buck. Somewhere along the line, we gotta try to figure out how to tamper some of the talk, or some of the spending. So,
Can I ask just one more quick question?
Sure, please.
Sorry. Is these costs, are these gonna be in this fiscal year or the next? Just when do you think they'll hit?
It depends on when we're invoiced. I mean, we are being invoiced as we go for the construction and the management and the design.
So the building costs are anticipated to start in March, April.
Oh, so it will very
Yeah.
likely be then.
Yeah, there's some lead times, and like I say, they've been taking their time to try to get the lowest quote.
Yep.
But, they say, we need to go because there's a couple of these things that have a longer lead time, and so doing March, April.
Okay. I would just say, one thing that I would entertain, and staff can say this is a very bad idea, is pulling the community center counter. But if that's really tied into that bid, and it would be a pretty big headache to pull it out, and you'd have to resolicit, I don't know, that's one thing I'd just throw out there as because I do see that as a very separate project, even though obviously you're having people there doing the work, but in terms of a public perception, user experience, it wouldn't, so.
yeah, Therese.
I have a question for Adam. When we were talking about the pool, you made the comment, if I'm misquoting you, please tell me so, but you said something like, to the effect that if you don't do it right what's the point? Maybe
I have said in the past,
think I said
I think if we're gonna do it, the city should do it correctly, do it right. I think some other people said that's similar tonight.
Okay.
But that's been my opinion on this project.
And what do you think about the building?
I think I guess I would agree with Councilmember Roson's opinion that it's a bit embarrassing. We're building this, we're spending, $5+ million on the pool. And one of the goals we have is to attract people back here. Obviously, it's been closed this year for construction. After the pandemic, attendance declined, and New Hope happened to open up their pool right after that. So we are going to be trying to attract more people and to gain people back. Also, the aesthetic, it's a very modest remodel. It's not gaudy, glitzy. One of the things that also impacts is trying to get staff. If you want to, we have a lot of seasonal recreational staff to run the pool, lifeguards. Having you can go talk to any HR department, and the appearance and the way a workplace feels does have an impact on whether you want to go work there. And so there's multiple benefits, I think, to having a appealing building. As John mentioned, it was built in the 60s. It looks very dated, but a lot of it is beyond just aesthetic appearance. There's structural that needs to be updated and remodeled, in addition to the security and ADA compliance. And I guess that's one of the things with the community center counter is that they've been in the long-term plan, but they are ADA and security improvements. So that would have been, that was part of when the architects were hired, that was part of we can go back and get that information for you. It was included and noted it'd be more efficient. The thought was to be more efficient that if we're gonna have the same contractors there to do both projects. So it was, I don't wanna take issue with the creep, the project creep. It was intentional. The fact of the matter is, the project did grow for that part. But it was because we'd have to then hire, to go through it again. That wasn't the plan, and if that were to be taken out, we would have brought that separately to the council. But it was included in the overall project with the Grogan Park.
Tracy.
When we made, you're not the, no, just wait. Just wait. When we approved the pool, it wasn't close to this number. Wasn't even close. And then we got grants from the state, and boom, just like that, we're up 2 million. We didn't vote for this pool, we voted for a different pool. Go ahead.
If we pulled the community center counter out, would we have, and did it as a separate project, would we have more ability to get like ADA type funding, grants for that, or not necessarily?
I don't know of any grants for building structures for that. The nice thing about doing it this way is both counters have similar materials. You know, you got a carpenter that's building them, and they can just do 2 of them. And then the glass we have is actually, we got it from a boat company that does the awnings and things on boats. So it was a COVID ad because we needed to have a sneeze guard of some kind. But staff would really like to have that be a better, you know, for security, to put in a better glass.
And we couldn't use the glass from the police building, like there's no recycling that way? I mean, I know they just replaced all that. I don't know what happened with the old stuff. There's no crossover.
No.
Okay.
Taji?
I am not supportive of removing any ADA improvements.
Any other comments, questions? All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Forrest?
All right, I move a resolution approving contracts for building improvements at Crystal Cove Aquatic Center and Crystal Community Center.
All right, looking for a second. Therese?
I'll second that.
All right. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Cummings?
Aye.
Councilmember Idebo?
Aye.
Councilmember Camish?
Aye.
Councilmember Kaiser?
Aye.
Councilmember Onessarosin?
Aye.
Mayor Adams?
Nay.
Councilmember Budaszewski?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
Another light topic, right?
Oh, jeez. Council will consider a resolution regarding the municipal consent of the Blue Line Extension. Community Development Director John Sutter is here to address the council. John? It's going to be after 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I have brought up the slideshow from August 20th, but rest assured I'm not planning to go through the whole thing because you've all seen it before, as has the public, and it's been on our website for well over a month now. But there is this one slide that I would like to use to start the conversation, just to remind everybody in the room and who may be watching online or on CCX. What municipal consent is, the action that's before our city council tonight, and what it is not. So municipal consent is the name given to a particular state law that, I think as the mayor aptly described it in a different context, is basically 3 paths to yes. One of them is approval. The city approves the preliminary design plans as they have been provided by Metropolitan Council. Now, this is for a light rail transit project. The statute is specific to light rail transit projects. The second way is the city takes no action, which defaults to approval, has the same effect. And then the third way is what's called disapproval, but disapproval is not a no vote on the project. In a disapproval action, each city along the route must identify changes to the plans that would turn that into an approval. And what a disapproval action would do is it triggers a hearing by Metropolitan Council, and they will decide whether or not to make the city's changes. There is no provision in state law for a city to say no to a light rail transit project. It is not about LRT versus other forms of transportation. It is not about whether LRT is cost effective. And it is not about operational issues related to LRT other than those that are specific to design. Metropolitan Council and Hennepin County are the government agencies that get to make those decisions. So, with that, I'm going to stop sharing, but we can return to the slideshow if necessary, if there are any questions. So, the history is laid out in the staff report, as we discussed during the work session earlier. There are 2 resolutions that are in the packet for you to consider tonight. One of them is what staff is recommending, which is an approval resolution. This approval resolution is based on several recently received project commitments and one commitment letter from Hennepin County regarding the condition of the old rural section of West Broadway generally, but our specific concern, or greater concern, was the old rural section that exists south of Fairview Avenue and extends into Robbinsdale. So based on these commitments, which are included as exhibits to that staff recommended approval resolution, that is one option that you could take tonight. The other option is a disapproval resolution that staff has prepared based on concerns heard from the community about the lane reduction on Bottineau Boulevard and the impacts on traffic and other spillover effects related to that. So the disapproval resolution would require a specific design change that would require the project to reconstruct Bottineau Boulevard to be 6 lanes wide, as it is today. It would obviously be a wider facility with the addition of light rail down the middle, plus keeping 6 lanes of traffic, so that would push the road footprint out somewhat. It would also, instead of the proposed interchange at Bass Lake Road, it would keep both roadways at an at-grade intersection, again, similar to the condition that exists today, except it would be somewhat wider because the light rail tracks would have to fit down the middle. And then also a pedestrian bridge at the south end of the station platform, because a platform has to have 2 means of access, and the only way to do that in the disapproval resolution scenario is to have a pedestrian bridge with a vertical circulation building, commonly called an elevator staircase tower, that would extend from the middle of the pedestrian bridge down to the south end of the platform. So that is the disapproval resolution that was in your packet. So I think we've identified in the staff report the rationale for the approval resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about how we got here or what it looks like going forward. And I guess I would stop there and ask if there are any questions for me, Mr.
Any
Mayor.
questions for John? Go ahead, Forrest.
My only question is the final whereas in the approval necessary?
Yeah, Councilmember, that's something that, yes. And I think we put it in both resolutions because it is kind of an oblique reference to other processes and ways to ensure the project is the best, good as it can be for the city of Crystal. For example, the environmental review process, which is still ongoing. We had a number of issues we commented on in the supplemental draft environmental impact statement that will need to be resolved with the project over the next several months. That would not necessarily affect the preliminary design plans, but would affect details that will emerge from those.
I don't mean it, are we both talking about the same thing? The generally supported.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said whereas.
Yeah, I said whereas, sorry. I was like, wait, how is that?
Oh, that is my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir. So, the generally supportive.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point. That was probably a cutting and copying error from the
Okay,
previous
'cause
resolution.
I would entertain an amendment to take that out, because I feel like that's a little just broad, too broad for me. I'd be curious what the rest of the council thinks on that.
Go ahead, you had a question
Oh.
or a comment?
Not yet.
Or we can save that till after
I
the discussion.
mean, yeah, I think the assumption is we're going with that amendment, or that, the approval. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, I'll wait, but I might have
I
an
think
amendment.
there's a lot of conversation.
Yep,
we need
I
to
will
have.
wait.
Comments? Questions? Taji?
All right, I have some written comments that I'm going to share. This vote has been a long time coming, and I want to share some thoughts so that our community understands my point of view on this long-awaited vote. We are here to vote on the design of the light rail that will be coming through Crystal. We are not here to vote on the viability of light rail, rather simply the design of the light rail. With that said, many residents have concerns with the viability of light rail in our community. I would like to address a couple concerns that I have heard most often. One is crime. I believe this is a legitimate concern, and significant work needs to be done to make transit safer. It will require a multifaceted approach that we must start to address now, well before the light rail is complete. Of course, our police department will play an important role in continuing to keep our community safe, but it is unfair and unrealistic to expect our police department to monitor and manage the safety of the light rail in our community. I look forward to more partnership with the Blue Line Project team on addressing these concerns. Another is cost. Many residents point out how much cheaper bus rapid transit would be. The cost of this project is fully out of my purview. On the note of bus rapid transit, I do hope that bus rapid transit will be considered to connect Crystal to the east and west, complementing the north and south connection we will get from light rail. Lastly, and most importantly for me personally, is project management. There are several examples of poor project management, and I will note a couple. One is communication for the Blue Line open house in Crystal that happened in August. The project office's postcards were not received by Crystal residents until after the open house. We received a lot of feedback from residents who were disappointed about this, as many were eager to participate and share their perspective. This is an unfortunate mishap by the project team. Another is the overall project communication and partnership with city staff and council. Obviously, we knew this vote was coming, and our staff was incredibly proactive in addressing the city's design concerns and requests. Our city was so proactive that we sent a note to the project team well over a year ahead of this particular vote so that we could have the time to discuss and debate the design of the project. The two most significant issues in that note were not addressed until the last few weeks. It's West Broadway and the Choice Lane. And of course, we as a city have identified more concerns and have had more requests over the last year that also, for some reason, were not addressed until the 11th hour. This is disappointing and downright disrespectful. We deserve better partnership from the Blue Line Project team. The project team must do better. It has been said that this is a generational investment, a 100-year investment, which I agree with. This is a massive change for our community, region, and state. So then, why are we leaving such important conversations and decisions until the last minute? We were supposed to vote on municipal consent a couple weeks ago, along with our neighboring community, but the vote had to be pushed back because of last-minute information and agreements that were being discussed. We've been trying to have these conversations for over a year. But once the project team starts to hear that we might not approve municipal consent, then we get the attention and engagement we deserve. This is such a large investment. We can't be operating this way. I wanted to share part of a note from the chair of the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners, Irene Fernando, that was sent to our council a couple weeks ago. She says this: to Mayor Adams and council members, I'm writing to you in support of the Blue Line Extension Light Rail Transit Project and ask you to vote to approve preliminary design plans as part of the process known as municipal consent. I encourage you to highlight in your approval resolution priorities for your city to continue to work with the project in Hennepin County as we move forward together. Our agencies have worked closely together on this project over the last few years. This strong partnership has made this a better project. We have much work remaining, and our continued partnership will be crucial for our shared success. I look forward to moving this project forward with you towards opening day. I share this note because this facade that we have had strong partnership is inaccurate. I'm not trying to be adversarial. I'm trying to shed light on the reality and publicly ask for better partnership moving forward so that this project can indeed be successful. All of that said, we are here to vote on the design of the plan. I will be voting to approve municipal consent because we have been tasked with reviewing the plans, making recommendations, and we've done that, and the project team, at the 11th hour, has indicated that they will meet our requests. What we have asked of the project team will help in our pursuit of having light rail be successful in Crystal. But again, what I do not approve of is the lack of engagement and partnership from the project team. Our city has been proactive and diligent in planning for this vote, and the response from the project team has been disappointing and disrespectful. We deserve better, and as long as I'm on this council, I will advocate for better partnership, and I will do what I can to hold the project team accountable for how they execute this project and honor the requests of our city. I am excited about the potential that light rail has in our community, but for us to reach that potential, we must work together, listen to our residents, and do what is necessary for light rail to be successful in Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other letters? Any other things anybody wants to highlight? No? Unexpected. All right, I have my letter. It's not nearly as nicely written, it's more like bullet points. I'll be voting no on the Blue Line Transit expansion in our community for several reasons. You know, there's two things I want to kind of highlight. One is this vote is about design. Nowhere in this process do we have a vote to tell the project office, to tell Met Council how our citizens feel. It's another process that I think isn't working. My first bullet point is excessive cost. You know, the project comes with an overwhelming budget. Price tag, it's $3.5 million. This alone should be the end of the conversation in my mind. To put in perspective, $1 million, $1 million equals in seconds. If you're to add up 1 million seconds, is 11 days. Well, 1 billion equals 31 and a half years. Therefore, 3.5 billion is over 110 years of seconds. It's astonishing to really understand what a billion is. It's just amazing. I think the conversation should be over right there, especially when you put in light with some of the other comments I'll be making. Loss of process. I believe a yes vote with the conditions will give away our process. I think it takes away our leverage to bring these promises into fruition. A no vote with conditions gives us an opportunity to address the Met Council in our own terms, in our own language, and to prevent other organizations from speaking for us. Leading into this vote, people are trying to speak for Crystal. Crystal's going to vote yes. We've never said that as a council that we're going to vote yes. We came into this literally with a 6 no, 1 yes, and that was, of course, before the information staff brought to us. Lack of community support. I think informed citizens largely oppose the expansion. I think there was a quote by one of our citizens here that said somewhere around 75% of the people, I think it was in Robbinsdale, oppose it. My experience has been very similar. You know, I talked to people. It was hard to quantify it. I wanted to write what the most common response was that I get when I talk about light rail with people. And it's not a verbal response, it's a look, it's a quick look with kind of a growl in their face. It's all body language. I think I know what that means. I think I know that they don't want it. I get it. That's what I got most often. That's the communication that I've been hearing overwhelmingly. So I believe there is a lack of community support, and I do represent the citizens. This is the dichotomy of being on the council. We get paid mega bucks on this council to make some very serious decisions. I make about $11,000 a year for this. It's a big deal. But the dichotomy is, do I represent the city, cause, what the city staff are tasked to do? Or do I support what the citizens tell me they want me to do as their only representative? This process doesn't have a representation for the citizens. It doesn't exist. Our city barely has a say in terms of the 3 pathways to yes. We're just narrowed down into this design that was pushed forward from the Met Council. The design that we initially proposed barely got any attention from the project office. In my experience working with CMC, I've been in the CMC meetings for 12 years on a monthly basis. The CMC meeting is it's informative. It's not a discussion. They present, in my opinion, they sell what they want to have accomplished. So we're sold. We had the same thing when the project office comes here. We got this interchange we're going to put in place. Fantastic. We're going to get more traffic through. I understand staff agrees with it. I have a whole bunch more of reasons why I don't, because of the design of the project. It really does go to the design of the project in terms of its capacity, and I'll address those as we move forward. Impact on traffic. The Blue Line extension has shown no consideration for vehicle traffic, in my opinion. Public presentations have made it clear during CMC meetings that vehicle traffic is the lowest priority. It's been said multiple times in the CMC meetings that it's the lowest priority. I hesitate calling it a priority. It's the least thing that they deal with, and one of our biggest objections have been what's going to happen to the traffic. We're not a city that depends on transit. Well, why aren't we a city that doesn't depend on transit? We'll get into that in a few minutes. But because we don't depend on transit, we have to make sure we protect the vehicle traffic. It can't be our last priority. Transit system failure. Light rail transit is supposed to enhance the public transit, but in Crystal, as a first-ring suburb, we're considered a first-ring suburb, still remains to be a transit desert. Public transit is unreliable in Crystal. Since the cutbacks of COVID, I know 2 people who had to move out of Crystal because it was to the point where they could not get to where they wanted to get. It's inconsistent. Bus rapid transit issue. There's no bus rapid transit service in 81. I think we heard it from some of our citizens tonight. We went through expense and design. We acquired businesses and property to create what we have as a very functioning Highway 81 with minor exceptions. We talked about, I think staff talked about our investment. A project like this, usually is responsible for acquiring property, businesses, and residents. And in this process, in this city, we paid for those acquisitions during the bus rapid transit design, which, of course, never happened. So we forfeit our investment. And at the time, it really wasn't an option. That was our part to have that expenditure. I think that's a big deal. That cost typically falls on the LRT project itself. Faulty traffic models. We've talked about it tonight. Going south on Highway 81 as you approach 100, we talked about adding that choice lane. That choice lane is to prevent the backing up going onto Highway 100. We have assurance that we can put concrete down, make that choice lane, make it better. But we have no commitment from MnDOT. I believe it's the project's responsibility to acquire that permission. I don't believe it's our responsibility to have faith that it will come at some future date just because we put concrete in the ground. I don't believe that's enough. I don't believe it's far enough. And of course, we looked at some of the diversion going through Welcome Park where there's no road. Any way you cut it, I mean, we heard this in some of our work sessions from some residents who said, hey, you're cutting the capacity when you take away 2 lanes. Well, no, we're not, says the project office. Dan Solar speaks up, well, actually, yeah, you do. You reduce the capacity. Duh. So it's a very permanent change we're making at Bass Lake Road and Highway 81. You don't get to just undo an exchange to add a lane. It's a very permanent thing. So I don't approve of that part of the design. Safety concerns, boy, there's a couple of them. Safety of riding on the trains is a major issue. We have already seen problems with safety on the rail system, including bullying, assault, drug use, like meth, heroin, and fentanyl. I don't know what to tell you on this. You know, I work with alcoholics and addicts in recovery. They tell me stories about what goes on the trains, and I said, I don't want to hear those stories. I'm done listening to those stories. Those are like 2 years old. Met Council or Met Transit has started boarding these trains and have made efforts to crack down on security. And I want to hear things that are happening now within the last month after many months had passed when Met Transit was already implementing their boarding trains and being present. And they said, oh, yeah, you want video? All of a sudden the stories started coming out for stuff that's still happening current day of open use, of bullying, of fights, of intimidation. And shortly after those changes took place at Met Transit, I talked to someone who described Train 2 on the University line as a no-go zone. If you jump on that particular train, you will see what I'm talking about. If you're on that line, you better take train or car 1 or car 3. Roadway safety. I've heard a lot about roadway safety. We've read it in the papers. We see it. Concern for drivers and pedestrians. It's a concern. Crime concerns. Again, the group of people I hang out with in business to help people in recovery. They said to me, yeah, if I had access to an LRT, I would jump on that train I would steal something and I'd pawn it off. And that's exactly what I would do. In my use, I would have really liked that. You know, and I look at him and I go, seriously? He goes, absolutely. Everybody around the table said, absolutely. So that's a crime concern. These safety concerns were never talked about at the CMC meetings, never talked about. They talk about safety. Boom, end of conversation. We're working on safety. What's safety? Well, I've listed a couple right now. With, you know, the safety for train versus car, the safety of being in a car, the safety of the communities that it's in. We don't have those conversations. They don't exist from a city perspective to a project office. We don't have a conversation. We get presented to. Infrastructure risk. Infrastructure risk. That refers to the Joint Water Commission that serves Crystal, New Hope, and Golden Valley. That train goes right over that infrastructure. When I wrote this, I was really concerned about what are a couple shutoffs going to do to protect it. Well, I informed myself a little bit better. The infrastructure risk there is, I think I am comfortable with the mitigation that they're presenting. I don't think we necessarily need it elevated in that space. But that doesn't mean there's no risk. It just means that we believe that we got an answer. Taj, you talked about my next item, lack of responsiveness. You did a fine job. I mean, did a fine job in terms of I guess, holding the people responsible, wanting to hold the people responsible. I think that's great. I wrote on March 7th, 2023, the council unanimously approved a letter to the Corridor Management Committee, the CMC, outlining our concerns about traffic impact and poor road conditions. I never saw that letter get presented to the CMC. I never saw it. I saw other cities' responses to the CMC, not Crystal's. After 16 months, no response. After prompting by my staff, they got a response, and it wasn't much of one. Yeah, we'll work on it. It is basically the response. There wasn't much substance to it, and here we are, over 18 months later from that letter, and we're a week before our municipal consent. A week before. In Hennepin County is, we promise. Let us get it in writing. Okay, here it's in writing. Staff, you have a higher level of trust than what I have. You really do. This process has been horrific in my mind. So, we don't have a financial commitment. We're before you today looking at this project without a financial commitment. We have letters, we have promises. I don't know. My next item is broken trust. The project office in Hennepin County have repeatedly showed themselves to be untrustworthy. Over the past 12 years, they have engaged in illegal votes, broken promises, poor communication, halting work relationship with staff in Crystal, disregarding the city's input on multiple occasions. This pattern of behavior has eroded any confidence in their ability to manage this project immediately, at least for the purpose of Crystal. I've been talking about trust in the CMC meetings for a very long time. I get this. But the behaviors don't change. I think this is true. I'm going to say it because I think it's true. The environmental impact study for the bus rapid transit on Highway 81 specified that Highway 81 would not support an LRT line. Guess what? That did not show up on the EIS for the current alignment for the LRT. I think that goes back to trust. I think that goes back to process. My last item is, I guess, to talk about consent. I think the Met Council and I think the public views consent and somehow thinks it means that we approve the line. I don't know why they think consent means we're giving our approval. Well, it's because that's the definition of the word. It's absolutely ridiculous. We are consenting to a design that's been put before us. And we're back to the same conversations we've had tonight in different points. Do I represent the citizens or do I represent the staff or the city that the staff works so stinking hard for? It drives me crazy to watch these guys work their tail off. Just something that a process that I feel has failed or flawed. I guarantee there's people on the Met Council that believe if we vote yes today, that means our city supports it. Our citizens support this. And they will weigh this vote as such. Not in the way it's being presented tonight, where it's just about this design. I think this is very similar to an incremental approach that is designed to just guide us to consent. I also believe if we don't vote no, we lose our ability to lock in the financial commitment. If we vote yes, it doesn't matter what promises, it doesn't matter what's written, because we've done the writing before in the first alignment. We had things written down, doesn't guarantee it. It gets voted out, pushed out. Well, they promised. Yes, they did. Well, they put it in writing. Yes, they did. Well, they changed their mind. Yes, they did. I'm convinced many of the things, many of the promises are going to come out. That's just not going to happen. You know, yes, we thought it would work, but based on the designs now and the new information we have, it doesn't make sense. We're not going to do that anymore. We've compromised on most of our 5 points. Some of them are just, I agree. I think some of them are going to be just fine. The design of a frontage road next to a bike path, next to a freeway, and, oh, we're going to just remove that with a dump truck and a scoop every time it snows from now and into eternity. I don't think it's the right answer. I think it's the wrong answer. I think it's additional maintenance that shouldn't exist. So, with the design, I oppose it. With all these other reasons, I oppose it. And that's where my vote's going. Anybody else? Forrest, go ahead.
Yeah, if there's no other, like, I don't know, opening statements or whatnot, I would like to make a motion to amend attachment A to strike the last whereas the whereas statement, saying that city council is generally supportive of the Metro Blue Line Extension project. That is it. And then if there is a second,
Therese?
I'll second that.
I would like to speak to my motion.
Yes, please go ahead.
So as Taji and the mayor mentioned, I think that there's a lot of heartache and pain around this project. The reality of it is, as John mentioned at the beginning, the parameters of our decision is very narrow. And within those parameters, if you were to ask me, and probably most of the council a month and a half ago, we would probably say no to the design. But we've gotten these changes in the 11th hour. And from my point of view, the design works. It works for Crystal. However, the Metro Blue Line extension generally does not work. There's a lot of operational issues, a lot of project management issues that have been discussed already. I won't belabor them. And I think that showing that we are generally supportive of the Metro Blue Line extension project and having that be our like closing whereas statement isn't accurate for at least me. And I would hope others on the council, as we are aware, there are pretty big operational issues that need to be addressed for this project to be successful. And I know I will be continuing to make sure that they are addressed. Unfortunately, there isn't a municipal consent on operation. So that's my argument is we should take that out of the resolution because for me, it is not accurate. And it sends the wrong message.
We got a first, we got a second. Any other comment or discussion on that issue? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Idebo.
Aye.
Councilmember Camish.
Can I just ask, are we voting on municipal consent, or are we
On
voting?
the amendment.
Just the amendment. Just the amendment.
Okay, I approve that. Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Kaiser.
Aye.
Councilmember Onessarosin.
Aye.
Mayor Adams.
Nay.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Aye.
And Councilmember Cummings.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Any other comments, discussion?
No, I'm ready to make.
Oh, yeah, I was too.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion approving resolution number 2024. I'm sorry. With the last whereas, with the amendment of the last whereas clause omitted, right?
Correct, with the amendment.
With the amendment as,
Mayor and Council, I just want to make sure we're talking about the approval resolution, attachment A. Is that correct?
As amended.
Okay.
All right. Where were we?
Excuse me.
You made the approval.
Motion.
Is
Did we
is
get-
the motion clear?
No, we haven't, we don't have
Okay.
a second yet.
the resolution regarding municipal consent for the Metro Blue Line extension.
All right, looking for a second. Forrest?
Second.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
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 All right.
Roll call,
Council,
please.
Councilmember Camish.
Nay.
Nay. Right?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Councilmember Kaiser.
Aye.
Councilmember Onessarosin.
Aye.
Mayor Adams.
Nay.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings.
Aye.
And Councilmember Idebo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. I lost my sheet. The agenda. Where we at?
7.5. The memorandum of understanding.
Remember all that?
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the council considering a memorandum of understanding for the law enforcement labor service, Local 44, and for the 2025 insurance contribution. Our Assistant City Manager, Kim Terrace, is here to address the council. Kim?
Thank you. So as stated, I'm here to request council approval of a memorandum of understanding with our Local 44, who is our law enforcement labor services, Local 44 for our police officers. The council has approved a 3-year labor agreement, which covers the years 2023, 24, and 25. And within that agreement, there is a reopener for the 2025 health employer contribution towards health insurance for that only that reopener. Our insurance premiums through our pool had an overall increased cap of 9.1% for 2025. However, due to our experience ratings over the years, our overall premiums for the city of Crystal is only going to go to 7.3% in 2025. So as part of our past practice, the city and the employee continue to share the premium cost increases, and the proposed changes for that article are included in the memo. The 2025 proposed budget includes sufficient funds for this proposal settlement, and I would recommend approval of the MOU with the authorizing the city manager to sign on behalf of the city.
John?
So, looks like overall health coverage for the single individual is going down, is that correct?
On certain plans,
On certain plans,
on one of the plans,
on one of the plans.
there was a slight decrease.
Yeah,
But overall, the insurance is going up.
Going up,
3
yeah,
or
that's what-
7.3%.
I think that's the, from what I've, been reading in the news or whatever, is overall healthcare costs are going up.
Yes, and some like double digits.
Double digits, yeah. Yeah.
That's why being in a pool, we like being as part of a larger pool because we have the guaranteed rate caps and we spread the risk.
How many people in the pool?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's many cities.
It's many cities. It's
Yeah.
not just, the.
It's not just,
100
right,
It's just not Crystal, but.
correct.
Okay, all right, very good.
Several organizations belong to the Logis pool.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, any other questions? Looking for a motion, go ahead. Dave?
I'll make a motion to consider the memorandum of understanding with Law Enforcement Labor Services, LELS, Local 44, police officers for the 2025 insurance contribution.
Looking for a second, John?
I second that motion.
All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Kim, next, you're on the next item as well.
Do you want to, I can tell you what the next item is. The next item is the 2025 wage and benefits for non-represented employees. So as stated, the city council has several labor agreements, including with our Local 44, our police officers, Local 56, our police supervisors, and Local 49, who are our public works employees. And all of those agreements call for a wage increase of 3.25% for 2025. And as stated in the previous item, we are recommending that the same 3.25% increase be given to the non-represented employees as well, which is consistent with all 3 settlements agreements and with council direction. Likewise, related to the health insurance as stated earlier, we also recommend the same that health insurance employer contribution that was just approved with the local 44 police officers. The city has had a long-standing practice of providing the same health insurance benefit package to all of its employees. The 2025 preliminary budget does include sufficient funds for the proposed wage and benefit settlement, and we again recommend approval.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Any questions for Kim? Go ahead.
What's an example of a non-represented employee?
Somebody who is not in a labor agreement or represented by a labor union.
Is that like just city staff, people working?
City
from home,
staff, yep.
Basically, okay.
And
Normally like higher
police
level.
chief and deputy chief,
Okay,
supervisors in the public works department.
got it. Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Tracy?
I will make a motion to approve the 2025 wage adjustment and insurance contribution for non-represented employees.
Tashi?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you both. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. All right, that's it for, what?
So I also want to say thank you on behalf of staff, all the staff.
Okay. We do have a couple announcements. A review and short presentation of the Barway Counts statue. Apparently, it's not a reveal. It's a presentation. And that will be at Becker Park on Sunday, October 5th at 10 a.m. Saturday, what did I say? Saturday. Thank you for catching that. The City Council will hold its next work session Thursday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m., Conference Room A, City Hall. It's open to the public and via Zoom. Next council meeting is Tuesday, October 15th, 7 p.m., council chambers at City Hall. Reminder that all work sessions and council meetings are open to the public. Current and previous meetings can be viewed or listened to on our website at crystalmn.gov. Do we have any other announcements from the council? John, go ahead.
The tech dump recycling is October 12th. The participant cities are a part of HRG, and you could drop off your hazardous waste materials at the Brooklyn Park, what do you call that? Huh?
Brooklyn Park Transfer Station.
Transfer station, that's right. And so things like batteries, for instance, they'll take them for free. TVs will cost like $5. I think mattresses are $20. But there's a whole list of items that they're taking at that time. So it's a great time to get rid of a lot of the stuff that you typically can't put out with the normal how would you say, like garage clean out that we have every other year or so. Great way to get rid of some actual junk. So
When is that?
October 12th, Saturday.
All right. If there's no others, looking for a motion? John?
So moved.
Looking for a second? Tracy?
I will second.
All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.